Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number, and I hope you start calling it if you haven't already. Today just may be the day. 800-951-0592, the website at allamericangold.com, and the last day of March Madness, and today, wow, has it really gotten maddening out there. All kinds of news breaking. Right now, oil's down $5. Now, it's still $103 a barrel. Because the president has announced the largest withdrawal from the strategic oil reserves ever. And I'm going to tell you right now, it makes no bit of difference. But once again, 1 million barrels a day from the strategic oil reserve, and he's going to do it for the next 6 months. That'll put our strategic oil reserves at the lowest level since we filled them up. I think totally full. We could have 700 million barrels of crude in there. By the time this operation is done, we're going to be a lot closer to about half a tank. So about half of the strategic reserve will be gone. But that is really smoke and mirrors for what really happened today. So here's the funny thing. Oil's down $5. So you would logically assume, well, gold's got to be getting hammered. Gold's up right now depending on where you look, 8 to 10, $12 here, $19.42 on gold. Silver's a little higher as well, $25.25. The Dow is actually down, right? You would think the Dow would be up today. It's actually down today because word out of Russia this morning. This just happened in the last couple of hours. President Putin has signed a decree that starting tomorrow, if you do not buy Russian gas in rubles, if you're one of those evil countries, then you're not going to get it. Vladimir Putin says that the Russian energy exports are now going to be bought in rubles, according to Bloomberg. He signed the decree demanding payments in rubles for Russian gas supplies, which is supposed to begin tomorrow. So unless this is the worst April Fool's joke of all time, Jason, and I'm going to tell you right now, I really think, and I don't know why, I really think that, and I don't know if the EU, if our administration, Wall Street, if they think he's bluffing. Why he hasn't bluffed about anything that he's done yet. Why would he bluff about this?
On top of that, why wouldn't he? What recourse does Europe and America have? What can they do about it? It's not like they can say, "Hey, by the way, we got this list of demands, and this is why you can't do that." They've proven
if this gets cut off tomorrow, but I'm just going to say it right. I think this is happening, whether it's tomorrow or next week. This is absolutely going to happen. Get in. That's all I can tell you. This is huge. Already, we did yesterday about how Qatar, the largest producer of natural gas outside of us, they've got 21 empty natural gas ships sitting in their port because they can't fill them. And now Putin said that these nations will be forced to open accounts in Russian banks, and that Moscow can halt gas contracts if buyers don't pay in rubles. The new proceedings, additionally, new proceedings in euros or U.S. dollars will be blocked, pushing what many viewed as a bluff. And again, I don't know why this is out of Bloomberg. Why would they think this is a bluff?
Because they're afraid, Joe. They're fearing. When you're in fear, you don't believe the bad thing you fear is happening.
This is just it is huge. I'm shocked. Now I will say this: unleaded gas futures here in the U.S. Approaching $6. So that's 3 times higher than it would normally be. And I find it interesting that the president makes this announcement about the strategic oil reserve today. Why do I have the feeling they knew this was going to happen? So trying to get the spotlight off of this tomorrow could be a very, very different scene. Now, in the Bloomberg article, they use the word could, right? Hey, supplies could be cut off. So, and I think that one word, may be giving them hope that, hey, he's not going to cut it off tomorrow. But again, whether it's tomorrow, next week, I don't put it this way. I don't think we get through next week without it being cut off.
I agree, Joe. I think it's happening. There's no reason for it not to happen. It's for whatever reason that this situation has happened this year. It's all moving in this specific direction, which seems to be, for whatever reason, green energy versus oil, Russia and China and countries that don't want to use dollars are sending them back our way. It's economic warfare, Joe. We're experiencing probably the worst economic war we've ever seen in our history.
We're going to be right back with more with what's going on with Russia, the ruble, which has rallied significantly, and Russia essentially backed their ruble with gold the other day. We'll talk all about it. Don't touch that dial. 800-951-0592. Gazprom is now going to be selling gas on the Russian exchange. So this is not normally you don't buy natural gas, contracts. Normally you'd buy it here in the U.S., London, Russia now opening. Gazprom will open and sell natural gas in rubles on the Moscow exchange. I'm going to put a few dots together for you. I hope you heed this. Russia has bond payments due April 4th and April 11th. These are much bigger payments. Remember the last one? They thought Russia would default last month, remember, in March. That they had to pay $117 million. Russia actually made the payment and made it in dollars. Right? Remember J.P. Morgan, right, and Citigroup were the banks involved. The payment on the 4th, I believe, is over $1 billion. So a much bigger amount. My guess is these things are together. That Russia's not going to make the bond payment in dollars. Will simply not pay it. And will offer rubles once again and force countries to make a decision. Start buying our natural gas in rubles and allow us to pay our debts in rubles, or we're shutting it off. I think that's what we're headed for. I think we're headed for Russia defaulting, which is going to send shockwaves through the junk bond market. And I mean, we haven't had a major country default in a long time. This is going to send shockwaves there, and I think the gas gets shut off. I really do, Jason. I think this is going to send energy prices through the roof. We're going to see all-time record highs in gold and inflation. All the inflation data, which we already told you was going to be horrendous, multiply that by a factor of at least 2 or 3 times. In other words, hey, if it was going to be 10% inflation, it's going to be 20. Because I don't know, what do these countries do Are they going to blink? Because this would essentially crush the economic collapse that we tried to inflict on Russia. You know, Jason and I were talking earlier this morning. Initially, we thought Russia would just walk right through Ukraine. Remember, hey, the best case scenario would have been don't do this. I still don't understand why they're engineering this collapse, but that's what they've done. The next best scenario was Russia takes Ukraine over the weekend. We are now witnessing the absolute worst case scenario, because not only did that not happen, then why do I believe that we thought we could crush Russia economically in a matter of a few weeks, right? Make Vladimir Putin bend the knee. Well, as of yesterday, the ruble is back to where it was before Russia invaded Ukraine, and Russia's now basically set a floor on the ruble with gold.
Yeah, Joe, we saw something similar on a smaller scale to this in 2012 when Muammar Gaddafi was pulling himself out of the world system, and he was going to have a gold and oil-backed money system for Africa. And Obama and Hillary Clinton, the powers that be that controlled America at that time, there's these rebels, they're so tortured, and we got to help them out. And they killed that guy. This is much more complex. They can't just send a bunch of weapons to a bunch of rebels. You send all you want to Ukraine. They're not going to go invade Russia and take out Putin. So this is a very complex situation, Joe. And what you just said, I mean, it's happening. This is actually happening, and I believe Russia is in Ukraine for the long haul. I don't think they're actually going to, even if they get their puppet president put in place. I think they have their own Afghanistan I think this is why the Pentagon told Congress, before the State of the Union address on March 1st, that there's going to be a 10 to 20 year war in this country. I think Russia has interests in very specific parts of this country. They're going to militarily protect those interests, run the country as they see fit, and then they're going to economically try to take over the world, change the system, Joe. This is what it looks like is happening. This is Muammar Gaddafi. It's a bigger player that has nukes. That's just a different situation.
Yeah, and Russia's now said that they'll pay 5,000 rubles per gram of gold, and essentially the ruble has just shot right back up on the news. And again, almost in complete defiance. I mean, you think about all the companies that have pulled out of Russia and all the hardship. The ruble should be collapsing. But this is why Russia had been stockpiling gold now, and all of a sudden, this economic warfare game has taken a big turn. The IMF's deputy managing director, Gita Gununpoth, has warned that Western sanctions on Russia, more specifically, the confiscation of dollar and euro denominated reserves held by the Russian central bank, is backfiring. And it is saying that it is making other foreign central banks more reluctant to hold large amounts of their foreign reserves in dollars and euros. They're saying that it's likely to see countries reconsidering how much they hold of certain currencies in their reserves. Certain currencies. Let's face it. She's talking about dollars, and she's talking about euros. Hey, they're just not going to hold them. Right? If you're going to simply say, and of course, we're probably looking at countries like China, India, Brazil. Remember those BRIC nations? None of them have condemned Russia. They may have abstained, but they didn't condemn. Matter of fact, a big article out today, India looks like this is happening. India is going to be the first country to buy oil in rubles. And it looks like that's going to happen as early as tomorrow. And we've been talking a lot about this, Jason. where all of a sudden, are we going to see countries continue to start turning their back on the U.S. dollar? Saudi Arabia, right, comes to mind. Goldman Sachs has now issued a warning. This is what they're saying. They released a note warning that the twilight of the U.S. dollar could be at hand. And they specifically talk about Saudi Arabia. If Saudi Arabia follows through and allows China to buy oil in renminbi, Goldman Sachs says that's it. That'll be the twilight of the dollar. And, of course, again, I don't want to over-exaggerate. It's not like the dollar's going to go away. I mean, well, it will, and we'll get a digital dollar. But all the benefits that we had of that world reserve currency is going to be minimalized. I think you're going to see the dollar hit new all-time record lows, which, of course, the gold and the dollar go together. We could see a dollar that really loses 30, 40, 50% of its power. This is why I said this next depression that we're going into, the last one, the first Great Depression, when they took the gold away. See, the central bank said that the problem was there was no inflation. It was a deflationary event, and that's why they took the gold away. They wanted to pump up the money supply, do all that stuff. Of course, we got, that was the creation of government handouts, right? The creation of Social Security and all this other stuff that's led us to where we are today. This time around, it's going to be a depression with an inflationary event, Jason.
Yeah, let me give you like a little theory, kind of connect some dots, and of course it may not be exactly like this, but we were talking also about property, Joe, and how I think property prices aren't going down. In fact, I think they're going to keep going up. I think the Dow and the markets, I think they trail upward. They're not going to keep up with inflation. Inflation is going to be higher than these assets. But check this out. So you're China. Let's just say you're still holding, and I don't know what they're holding. They're holding $1 trillion in their books, basically. They haven't sold all of their U.S. Treasury. So let's just say they have $1 trillion. Now you can't buy oil from Russia with dollars. You may not be buying oil from Saudi Arabia in dollars. Now you got $1 trillion. Well, you're China, and what are you going to do with these dollars? Because you got to be able to spend them somewhere. And you'll look over to the West. It's like, well, I can spend them there. So I'm just going to funnel this money quietly into a thing called BlackRock or something like that, and I'm just going to buy property all across America, just buy everything up. I'm going to pay more than anybody else can pay because I got to get rid of these dollars. And we know China, they're notorious for buying properties and letting them sit empty because it's an investment. Joe, that's quite possibly what's happening. These countries, if they're going to move to the ruble, they got to flush dollars. And properties.
There's two things that are happening right now. People are buying the living daylights out of gold and silver, and they're buying the living daylights out of property. The people I've been talking about, people are just cash. They're not, forget about mortgage. They don't care about rates, right? They're just buying cash. And again, there's so few places to go right now. As we watch all of this play out, gold's at the highs of the day right now, 1945. And I think, unfortunately, it's going to get a lot worse, especially the decree signed by Putin today, starting tomorrow. Kind of ironic, right, on April 1st, April Fool's Day, that European nations essentially have until tomorrow to open accounts in Russian banks and pay for gas in rubles. And obviously the threat is, if you don't do it, we're shutting the gas off. And I think I'm not surprised here because, like I said, next week, the next 2 weeks, the 4th and the 11th, huge bond payments due from Russia. And why do I have the feeling not only is Russia not going to make it, they're going to shut the gas off and really forcing Europe, right? Because the last thing Europe wants to do is bend the knee. Right, because now it's Putin saying, no, you're going to bend the knee, right? And of course, that would be a slap in the face to the Ukrainians, right, Jason?
That's correct, Joe. I mean, Venezuela at one time, I think, got to the fifth largest economy in the world at one time. I think that's where they peaked, and now they're at the bottom of the list. There is no reason why, if things go the direction of Russia, China, that suddenly America finds itself very quickly going to number 2 spot to China and then just trailing downwards. Because if everyone flushes dollars, Joe, nobody's going to want to buy American dollars and assets at all. They're going to want the hard assets. They want gold. They want property. But they're not going to want the dollars, Joe, and we could very quickly see America flushed out of the world economic system very quickly. Just it could happen. People don't get this. They think America is going to be number 1 all the time. It can happen.
You're being naive. If you're not protecting yourself, you're being naive. It's just that simple. We've been saying this for a long time. You better have at a minimum an ounce of gold for every year you've been alive, an ounce of gold for every year your wife's been alive, your kids have been alive, and I think that's at a minimum here. I think, heed the warning from BlackRock yesterday. Remember what the president of BlackRock said. We've never been through hardships and shortages that the world, and really the United States, is going to see, and the amount of inflation you're really going to see. And come tomorrow, what I thought inflation would be could be much, much different. 800-951-0592. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, that's not right, but, he's a Russian guy. Guess where he's at today? Yeah, he's in India. Yep, 2-day visit. They're expecting a deal to be reached for India to start buying oil in Russian rubles. By the way, India buying Russian oil at a significant discount. And really, right, this is just an example of a country saying, hey, this is what is best for India. Right? This is what's best for our country. We're going to do what's in our best interest, and no longer, countries always used to do what was in America's best interest. Jason, that seems to have changed.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you right now, nobody at the higher ends of society, of the controllers, they don't really care about the countries that are involved in this world. They care about sales markets. It's all about sales markets. And when the dollar is what you use in your sales markets, that's what you use. But in sales markets, there's changes. Blockbuster Video didn't keep up with the times, and so here come Netflix and sat right on them, right, Joe? So that's what's going to happen here. Essentially, the ruble, the yuan, whatever we're moving to, that's just sitting on the dollar. The dollar is Blockbuster laughed Netflix out of a meeting. If anyone knows the story, Netflix came in, the little guys, they came and said, hey, we got this business model. We think we can join forces and make this really incredible streaming service and send videos to people's doors, through the mail. And Blockbuster laughed them out of the building. And Joe, I think the purveyors of dollars were laughing at the little Russian country, their little economy, and suddenly things are changing very quickly.
Yeah, 800-951-0592. U.S. $20 gold pieces, $22.75. Boy, gold looks like it's ready to take off here again. Now up a dozen here, 1946, essentially taking back all of the losses from the first 2 days of the week. Remember when I told you the first 2 days of the week? I wish people would listen more. Told you that was nothing but a paper fake and to get in, and I'm telling it to you now. I don't know what's going to happen, right? I'm not in the meeting, okay? I'm not in India right now, okay? I'm not Vladimir Putin, okay? I don't know. But here's what I know so far. Every single time, they've thrown out, Russia's going to make peace, or Putin's not going to invade, they've been wrong every time. He hasn't bluffed. Vladimir Putin, as far as I'm concerned, hasn't bluffed once. If Russia leaves with a deal for India tomorrow that they're going to buy oil in rubles, gold's going higher. If Russia shuts off the gas, forget it. Forget it. And again, I think I'll say this right now. I wouldn't be surprised if the India deal happens. It just makes sense. The gas thing's going to be interesting. I don't know whether it's tomorrow or next week. I actually think that's what's going to happen, Jason. I do. I think it's that we're at that point now where they're at a standoff.
Well, Joe,
they're telling Russia you can't spend your dollars and your euros, and they're cutting them off economically. Right? This is the economic lever that Russia has.
You say you don't know what for sure is going to happen, Joe, but really you do know one thing: who is not at that meeting? You didn't say America's at that meeting. So something's happening, Joe. I mean, there's a meeting, and the dollar's not represented at that meeting, is it?
And this is why when you got, and it's so funny because I know Wall Street, it's at 35,000, right? They're trying to pretend it's going to be great, and yeah, we love higher rates and all this nonsense. Goldman Sachs doesn't issue warning notes very often. You know, the last warning notes I remember from Goldman, because they didn't even warn about the 2019 issue. But the last ones I remember was at the financial crisis. And by the time they were issuing them, the game was already up. Why do I feel like Goldman already knows that this is going to happen? Why do I feel like Goldman knows Saudi Arabia is absolutely going to let China buy oil in renminbi? Why do I think that Goldman Sachs already knows Russia's going to say, if you don't pay in rubles, you're not getting any gas?
It's because it's happening, Joe. It's because I think you're right. I think it was pre-planned. These things, if anyone listening, if you want to know how a banker thinks, bankers don't care about any of these numbers. The Dow, 35,000, the NASDAQ, 14,000, gold at whatever price. They don't care about numbers. Bankers have never cared about numbers. I mean, not as much as we do, down here. They care about a couple of things. They care about time, and they care about assets. They care about how many ounces you own. They care about how many businesses they control. They care about how much property they have control over. They care about how many hours of labor that are being given to them for what little assets they have to give for it, Joe. It really, it's all about how many ounces. When it comes to gold, it's about how many ounces. The price, I mean, I always find it funny when gold's at a price where you should really jump in because it's going to cost more dollars if you wait. And people kind of wait around for that $2,000 gold spot price, Joe. It's going to happen, but why not buy it before it goes back to 2,000, right, Joe?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think people understand this. It's done. I'm certain of it, and I've been certain of it for a while. It's a matter, listen, is it tomorrow? Well, I have a bad feeling that it is. I hope not, but I think it is. The digital currency is coming. Look at what we're doing today. Look at how idiotic our president is. We're going to release 180 million barrels from the strategic oil reserve instead of letting our companies go drill more. Instead of getting the Canadian pipeline open, right? Instead of doing so many more things that make so much more sense. By the way, this million barrel, that's not going to do anything. Especially if Russia shuts off the natural gas, you can empty the strategic reserve and it wouldn't do anything. Leave that money in your bank, see what happens. It's not going to be on me. That'll be on you because I'm telling you right now. The dollar's day as being the only reserve currency is over. It's over. We knew this day was coming. Listen, China's economy is as big as ours. They want their seat at the table. They're going to get it. And all that debt and all that free money, yeah, it's going to get bailed in by the people with the money in the bank. It's just that simple. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be right back. 800-951-0592. There was some economic data out. Jobless claims, a little over 200,000, still strong there. They had national income and spending. Income was okay. Spending not good. Spending up only 0.2% month over month, well below what inflation was running at. So when you think about nominal spending, we're spending less. And again, people struggling to pay all of these higher costs. The favorite Fed inflation number. It's called the PCE deflator, which I love because first of all, it doesn't track anything. This is just a fake number. Honestly, it doesn't track inflation, or it is a number the Fed created that tracks absolutely things that aren't happening in the actual economy. It's incredible. And because of their control of the idiot box, they come out and regurgitate these numbers and tell you all these great things about this number and what, so on and so forth. Even though they know it doesn't really track, it's completely useless for you and I. By the way, that hit the highest level today since 1982. So just to put it in perspective, even their fake baloney track nothing number rose 6.4%. They say the contributors were motor vehicles and motor vehicle parts, housing, gasoline, other energy goods, yeah, pretty much everything. Pretty much everything. So that was the data that was out today. And again, the inflation data is only going to get much worse from here. By the way, so yesterday we were talking crude. Now we're releasing 1 million barrels from the strategic oil reserve. Here's why it's not going to help. Right now, U.S. oil exports are climbing because of the Russian invasion. They're saying that part of the reason why stockpiles keep declining, Jason, is because the United States is exporting more and more oil and oil equivalent products than ever before. U.S. crude exports rose to 3.8 million barrels a day. That is the highest number that we've seen in quite some time, and it just feels like any extra oil we have is going to leave the country anyway.
Probably a little bit of a bribe to keep the European countries from turning towards the ruble and China, right? I mean, that's what it sounds like, right?
All-time record low storage levels here in the U.S., all-time record low storage levels in Canada, all-time record low storage levels in Europe. You start to get the picture of what is really happening as we watch. Think about the events of today. Biden makes this announcement. I don't think by accident. On the same day, Vladimir Putin signs a decree saying starting tomorrow, you better open your accounts in Russian banks because we're going to shut the gas off if you don't pay us in rubles. At the same time, Russia's foreign minister is in India for a 2-day meeting, which by all accounts seems like, Jason, India's getting ready to say, yeah, we'll do it. We'll buy oil in rubles.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Joe. In India, China, Russia, and then Brazil, the BRIC nations, obviously you start a currency war, and you start pushing towards their currencies, not the dollar, not the euro, not the yen. And then once the currency fight starts up and gets heavy, then it's like, well, India, China, Russia, well, we're heavy in gold. What fight is there really? Your currency has no value. You're printing more and more and more to fight this currency battle, and we're just going to throw gold in front of ours. Joe, that might be the end game of this whole situation.
Yeah. Now I'm watching. Remember we were talking about Trafigura, the big commodity broker. They are out with a note now. So is Goldman Sachs, saying this release of the strategic oil reserve is only going to make things worse. By the way, OPEC came out with their own statement today saying, guess what? We're not increasing production. We're not doing it. So the UAE and Saudi Arabia continue to give the middle finger. Trifigura says this is the lowest levels ever in the SPR. The stockpiles, our emergency stockpiles, will be at all-time record lows in terms of number of days of supply, and that they are unimpressed with this move and will have little to no effect in the longer-term price in crude oil. And already crude oil is already coming back. It was down almost $7 a barrel. Now it's down $3 and change. But Jason, it doesn't look like this move, unfortunately, is being outweighed by what Russia's done. If India goes along, and then obviously OPEC coming out and saying, not doing it. We're not increasing production. And again, it just seems like the cards are stacking against the dollar right now.
You know, what if some of these European countries, Joe, they start to go into extreme pain later this year, and they're like, you know what, we got to do the Russia thing, we got to do the China thing. What if it happens later in the year, maybe early next year? We can't do this anymore. What would these European countries do, Joe? Would they turn to America and say, hey, we want our gold back? What if that happens, Joe?
800-951-0592. Get your gold put away. U.S. $20 gold pieces, $22.75 at 800-951-0592. Final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Man, it is going to be an interesting day tomorrow. We'll watch to see what happens. Again, what are we looking for? Nobody even cares. You know what? Tomorrow's jobs number tomorrow. Nobody even cares. Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Did we create 100,000 jobs, 1 million jobs? Doesn't matter. Is India going to pay for oil in rubles? That looks likely. Will Vladimir Putin shut the gas off on Europe? Zero Hedge is reporting, and I'll just read you what they said. Looks like Putin wasn't bluffing. I don't know. I trust Zero Hedge a lot. They do a lot of great research. And at least they're seeming to indicate, Jason, and again, like I said, I don't think he's bluffed on anything. I think this happens.
Yeah, I don't know why Russia, in the situation that we're currently in, would have to make stuff up at this point. They're not in a position. They're not in a weak position, at least in this situation right now. So when you're in the stronger position, you don't have to make stuff up. You can just spout out the facts. The person or the individual that's in the weak position, they got to come up with different ways of trying to solidify or strengthen their position. But Putin and Russia don't have to do that right now, Joe. So if they're going to say something, then you might as well take it as fact.
Yeah, I just think at this point, why not? And again, I think these bond payments are due. And why do I get a feeling that there's going to be some leverage here with gas? Oh, well, I guess you don't need to cool and heat your homes. I mean, this would literally, European factories would just close. I mean, they would. They don't have enough supply. We can't ship enough liquid natural gas to do it. Matter of fact, here's the problem. Here's the other problem. Even if we could, let's just say there was enough ships that we could do it. Because believe me, we have gas. We can do it. I mean, I don't know that we could produce that much because we haven't built the infrastructure, but let's just for a minute say we could. Here's the problem. Europe isn't set up to offload the amount of ships needed to get the gas they needed. They're set up to get it through the Russian pipeline. Yeah, they've got ports, and yeah, they can, but and the volume of gas that they need, it can't be done, Jason.
No, that's what happens when you globalize your markets. You know, when America,
to build a liquefied natural gas port will take years. It's not like they could build it tomorrow. Tomorrow we're ready to. No, it doesn't work that way.
Well, they are building warehouses in California. That might help. That's what they're doing. They're building shops to hold stuff, and it's the oil that has to get it there. So I guess, hey, shut up, America, and consume at the prices that we demand. Maybe that's what we're setting up for, Joe.
800-951-0592. Gold's up a baker's dozen here, 1946. The Dow's down 140 points. Crude oil, which was down a little over $6.50, is now down $3.80. And why do I don't know. I would not be shocked if oil actually ended up higher today if traders really think Russia's going to follow through and shut the gas off. Tomorrow we could be talking about new all-time record high prices in gold. If that really happens, I think that's what would happen. I think it'd be insanity. 800-951-0592.